Lonnie David Franklin Jr., a name that would become synonymous with terror, stalked the streets of Los Angeles for decades. Known infamously as the Grim Sleeper, he preyed upon vulnerable lives in the South Central area. His reign of violence spanned a chilling period, beginning in the mid-1980s and extending into the early 2000s. The moniker Grim Sleeper was coined due to apparent periods of inactivity, baffling investigators. Outwardly, Franklin presented a facade of normalcy, working as a police mechanic and later a sanitation operator. He was perceived by many as an ordinary neighbor, hiding a monstrous secret beneath the surface. He was, in fact, a prolific serial killer. Franklin was ultimately linked through irrefutable evidence to the murders of at least 10 women. He was also charged with one attempted murder, a critical case that would later prove pivotal. His arrest came a staggering 25 years after his first known crime, leaving a community scarred and searching for answers. Please like and subscribe if we're new to the channel. Lonnie David Franklin Jr. was born on August 30, 1952 in Los Angeles. He grew up in the very community he would later terrorize, South Central LA. His early life included a stint in the U.S. Army, where his violent tendencies first surfaced publicly. In 1974, while stationed in Germany, Franklin participated in a gang rape. This act resulted in a criminal record, though the consequences were relatively light compared to his later crimes. He served only 1 year of a 3-year sentence for the offense. Following his discharge from the military, Franklin returned to Los Angeles. He secured employment, first with the Los Angeles Police Department as a mechanic. This position offered him a disturbing proximity to the very force that would eventually hunt him. He later transitioned to working as a sanitation operator. Franklin married and had 2 children, cultivating an image of a stable family man. To many in his neighborhood, he was an exemplary citizen, friendly and helpful. Neighbors often described him affectionately as Uncle Lonnie, known for his joking demeanor. This public persona starkly contrasted with the private reality described by his son. His son reportedly characterized him as abusive and a pervert behind closed doors. Franklin's crimes unfolded during a particularly challenging era for South Central LA. The mid-1980s and early 1990s were marked by the devastating crack cocaine epidemic and rampant gang violence. This environment created a backdrop of chaos and vulnerability. He specifically targeted primarily vulnerable Black women. Many of his victims were sex workers or struggled with addiction issues. These women were often marginalized, their disappearances sometimes overlooked in the broader context of urban violence. Franklin employed deception to lure his victims. He would persuade them to get into his car, isolating them before the attack. His method of operation was chillingly consistent. He typically shot victims with a .25 caliber pistol. The initial shots were often aimed at the torso, intended to incapacitate them. He would then transport the victims to secluded locations. Once isolated, he would rape his victims. The final fatal act involved multiple shots, frequently targeting the left chest. This methodical approach indicated a deliberate intent to kill. After committing the murders, Franklin would abandon the bodies. They were often left in alleys, discarded in dumpsters, or hidden behind bushes. These locations further highlighted the killer's disregard for human life and his victims' dignity. The known victims linked to Franklin represent a tragic list. Deborah Jackson in 1985 is considered his first known victim. Henrietta Wright and Barbara Ware were murdered in 1986 and 1987, respectively. Bernita Sparks, Mary Lowe, and LaCrika Jefferson were also victims in 1987 and 1988. Alicia Alexander was killed in 1988. After a long hiatus, the murders resumed. Princess Cheyenne Berthomew was killed in 2002. Valerie McCorvey followed in 2003, and Janisha Peters in 2007. These later crimes shattered the illusion of the sleeper period. Thomas Sylvester Steele, found near Henrietta Wright in 1986, is believed to be his only male victim. The circumstances surrounding his death remain less clear than those of the female victims. Police initially struggled to identify a single perpetrator. The high volume of crime in the area complicated investigations. Some crimes were even initially attributed to another active serial killer at the time, known as the Southside Slayer. Despite the formation of a special task force, the case remained cold for many years. The lack of clear connections and the killer's ability to evade detection prolonged the terror. The community lived under a shadow of fear, unaware that the killer might be living among them. Amidst the tragic list of victims, there was one known survivor. Eneatra Washington was attacked in 1988. She endured being shot and raped, but miraculously managed to survive the brutal assault. Washington's survival proved to be a critical turning point. She was able to provide vital testimony to investigators. Her account was crucial in developing a profile of the killer and creating a composite sketch, offering the first real glimpse of the perpetrator. Investigators diligently collected DNA evidence from the crime scenes. Saliva and other biological materials were preserved, holding the key to the killer's identity. This foresight would prove invaluable years later. However, the DNA initially did not yield a match in existing criminal databases. At the time of Franklin's earlier offenses, DNA submission was not standard practice for the types of crimes he had committed. His prior record did not include the necessary biological samples. Years passed, and forensic science advanced dramatically. DNA technology became increasingly sophisticated, offering new possibilities for cold cases. This progress would eventually shine a light on the grim sleeper. A significant breakthrough occurred in 2010. Investigators utilized a cutting-edge technique known as familial DNA searching. This method involves comparing crime scene DNA to samples in databases to find potential relatives of the perpetrator. This innovative search led them to a match with Franklin's son, Christopher. His DNA was present in the system due to a 2009 conviction. The familial link provided investigators with a crucial lead, narrowing their focus considerably. The familial match strongly indicated that the killer was a close male relative of Christopher Franklin. This revelation immediately directed the investigation towards Lonnie Franklin, Christopher's father. The decades-long mystery was finally beginning to unravel. With Lonnie Franklin identified as the prime suspect, police moved to obtain his DNA. The specific details of how his sample was acquired are not publicly detailed in all accounts, but it was successfully obtained through investigative means. This sample was then compared directly to the crime scene evidence. The DNA comparison provided the definitive link. On July 7, 2010, Lonnie David Franklin Jr. was arrested. He was charged with 10 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, the charges covering the known victims and the survivor, Eneatra Washington. A search of Franklin's home yielded disturbing evidence. Investigators discovered a large collection of photographs of women. Approximately 180 photos were found hidden, part of a total collection of around 1,000 images. Among these photographs were images of his known victims. The discovery suggested Franklin kept macabre trophies of his crimes. The sheer number of unidentified women in the photos raised fears of potentially more victims. The Los Angeles Police Department took the unprecedented step of releasing photos of the unidentified women found in his home. This public appeal led to the identification of some missing persons, though many images remain of unknown individuals. The legal process that followed was lengthy, marked by numerous delays. The trial of Lonnie Franklin finally began years after his arrest. He entered a plea of not guilty to all charges against him. The prosecution built a powerful case based on overwhelming evidence. Key components included ballistics analysis linking the murder weapon to multiple crime scenes. Crucially, DNA evidence provided irrefutable matches to Franklin. The compelling testimony of the sole survivor, Eneatra Washington, was also presented. Her first-hand account of the attack provided a human face to the brutality and corroborated the physical evidence. The prosecution meticulously detailed the brutality and premeditation involved in each murder. The defense strategy was notably weak. they offered no evidence to counter the prosecution's case. Their primary argument rested on the possibility that the DNA match was to a relative other than Lonnie Franklin, a claim unsupported by the evidence. After hearing the evidence, the jury deliberated. On May 5, 2016, they delivered their verdict. Lonnie David Franklin Jr. was found guilty on all counts of murder and attempted murder. The sentencing phase followed the conviction. On August 10, 2016, Lonnie Franklin was sentenced to death. The sentence reflected the horrific nature and scale of his crimes. However, Franklin would not face execution. He died of natural causes while in prison on March 28, 2020, at the age of 67. His death brought a definitive end to his life, though not to the pain he inflicted. His passing in prison meant he never faced the ultimate penalty imposed by the court. It closed the chapter on the grim sleeper's life, but the impact of his actions continues to resonate. The case of the grim sleeper highlighted profound societal issues. It underscored the vulnerability of marginalized communities, particularly women struggling with poverty and addiction, who were disproportionately targeted. Their lives were tragically undervalued for too long. The resolution of this cold case also demonstrated the critical importance of advancements in forensic science. DNA technology, especially familial searching, proved to be the key that unlocked a decades-old mystery. It offered a powerful tool in the pursuit of justice for victims whose cases had gone cold. The Grim Sleeper case stands as a testament to the perseverance of investigators and the transformative power of science in the fight against crime.